Today is all about transplanting bulbs, but first we're gonna go take a peek inside my greenhouse because I moved all the plants in there and I am so excited. I love spending time in there and I wanted to show you. Welcome inside. This is officially my new favorite place ever on our property. It's just really peaceful and I absolutely love being able to spend time with my plants. I know, I'm so weird. But spend time in this area with my plants while being dry and keeping them alive and keeping them healthy until next spring when we can put them in the ground. It has a great vibe in here and I cannot wait until we have a bigger greenhouse and a permanent greenhouse because I am totally gonna use that for just a space to sit and read and drink my tea and enjoy time with the dogs and all the plants. But that is not what today's video is about. Today we are going to be transplanting iris and snowdrop bulbs because they are in locations that I do not want them long term, but they either were there when we moved in or in the case of the irises, they were an impulse buy that I had to put in the ground because they were already blooming in the bag. And so now I want to move them to where I actually want them and it's the time to do it. All of the bulbs that we'll be transplanting today are in the backyard and they are scattered around. So I have some that are underneath the plants that I put back there earlier this spring, and then I also have some that are closer to the house. They're by the fig that we'll be removing, and I want to preserve the snowdrop bulbs that were there because they're just really pretty and they're one of the first bloomers. Every spring they come out about January, late January, early February, and I love that. We have iris bulbs beneath this dappled willow. We also have them back there underneath the honeysuckle that was in front of the canopy. I removed the canopy. If you want to see that video, I'll pop it up here. I removed the canopy earlier this fall because we were going to rework the whole space. We are going to rework the whole space in the spring, and so we didn't need to leave it up at all. So I'm going to take out those irises from these two locations and then the snowdrops. So right back there is a giant fig bush that comes back every year despite the fact that I abuse it and hack it back all the time. Every single year it still grows this large, and there are beautiful snowdrops underneath it, and we will be removing that fig tree. I have fig starts that we will be using from that tree, but we'll plant it in a more appropriate space rather than right in front of a fence or a gate where it constantly overgrows. So you can actually see the remnants of the snowdrops underneath this fig as we speak. I didn't get a chance to clean them up, but they have all of their brown foliage that, you know, died back many months ago. These guys are usually done by April or May, and so they die back, and usually I clean this space up, but the fig just burst forth this year and I didn't have the room to do so. So I'll also be cleaning up this brown dead foliage while I'm transplanting the bulbs. My patio is still messy, but it is so empty. Look at how empty it is. I moved all my plants into the greenhouse, as you saw earlier, and look, there are no more plants, and it's so sad. I figured for this chore today, we would just start in the back and then work our way forward. So we're gonna start at the honeysuckle with those irises, and then we'll just work our way forward all the way to the snowdrops under the fig. We are going to start on the bulbs, but there was a majestic sheeper who required strawberries, so we're gonna do that first. Do you want a strawberry? Oh, he's a good boy. I'm trying to remember how many bulbs were in the package I bought at Costco. I impulsively bought these iris bulbs earlier this spring. If you can't tell a trend in my videos as far as impulsive plant buys, then you have not been paying attention. I think there were 100, so I think I put 25 in this one, 25 in that one, and then 50 around the dappled willow. But I'm not 100% sure. So I'm going to try and get all of them up because irises can spread pretty rapidly in my experience. So I'm gonna try and get all of them up and then transplant them. My husband, who is right in his assessment, is constantly telling me I need to plan my garden better. So I do actually have a garden plan for the larger space that we're doing next spring. And I am going to do a video on that to show everyone what I'm doing. But yeah, he is right, because I do impulsively buy plants and then frantically run to put them in the ground or put them in the greenhouse, buy a greenhouse to put them in, because I buy them because I love plants and then have no plan for them and nowhere to put them. So he's not wrong. So a lot of these are already dividing, which is just so crazy. This is why irises can get out of hand. You see all of those, like that was one bulb and now it's branching off into multiple that I could use and will use as additional bulbs. And wow, I just have all the animals with me. Sadie here, Moomy here, and Walter here, and that is how I generally garden all the time, which I love. I love having the animals around me. It makes me happy that they want to spend this much time with us. I don't mind one bit. We have a Moomy and a Walter right here. But check this out. I think this is like a little pine tree. This little guy right here. Maybe I'll dig him up and put him in a little container and see what he turns into. We're planting so many trees around here. I'll take a free one. Free tree, and I have the greenhouse to put it in. One of the things I'm most excited about for this new garden space is the ability to impulsively plant to a degree. I mean, yes, I will need to plan out some things, but when I see an annual or I see a bulb that I like, I'll have the space to plant it. And prior to us reworking it, we didn't, which is how these irises ended up right here next to the honeysuckle, because there was no other place that just had open dirt that I could plant my bulbs. And so now we're fixing that, and I'm gonna have a ton of garden space that I can plant in. So I think I am actually finding them all, which is pretty exciting. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but they weren't buried very deeply. I knew I'd be moving them when I put them in the ground. So this spot's gonna be a little bit harder because this willow has grown so dramatically that I've widened the circle repeatedly throughout the growing season this year. And so I'm not quite sure where I buried the irises in relation to the now wider circle. I knew where it was in the original cleared space for this plant, but I don't know now. So it'll be a little bit exploratory. But similar to the iris bulbs that were over by the honeysuckle, I planted them rather shallow because I knew I was moving them. So hopefully they're easy to find. Actually pretty successful. I think where I was least successful was underneath this dappled willow, and that's just because it has puffed out so much that I can't get under it very effectively, and I also don't want to disturb the roots. But we got a lot of them. Look at this. So these are all the bulbs I collected from underneath the honeysuckle, the two honeysuckle, and the dappled willow. And I think I got a good amount of them. I probably missed a few, especially because they were already spreading and dividing, but I think I'll be able to manage those just by hand pulling whatever is left. I'm going to go plant these first and then go dig up the snowdrops and plant those, because if I try and dig up both and plant both at the same time, I might not be able to tell which bulbs are which, and then I will be potentially just planting blind and it might turn out a little bit funky. So I'm just gonna plant these first and then go dig up the snowdrops. I've decided to plant both the iris and the snowdrop bulbs along our driveway in the front bed that we freed up when we took out the pine trees. So I will show you right now behind me, maybe. Might have to take off my hat. But I will be planting these in that bed back there along the driveway because I thought it would be really pretty to have this drift of snowdrops and irises in the spring along the driveway. We're also redoing that whole bed, but I think along the driveway we aren't going to really rototill right there, and so these bulbs can just live there forever and be totally fine while we rework the rest of the bed. Now, because this bed is basically empty already and it has a ton of mulch just from the wood chips that we had put down from removing the trees, there's not a whole lot of prep work I need to do in this bed. I'm going to remove some of the mulch just to have the ability to plant in the ground, but other than that, it's a pretty simple process. Time for the snowdrops. Okay, that sound you hear in the background is my husband painting our house, but I wanted to show you, this is how early these snowdrops pop up. They are already popping up right here. I don't know if you can see that, but those are the snowdrops. So I'm glad I'm moving them now. So one of the challenges is that these snowdrops have been here a really long time and they're underneath the fig, and so they are intermixed with the fig roots and they're really hard to pull up because of that. And you can see this is a fig root, and then these snowdrops are actually growing in, around, and under that root, so it's a little bit difficult to get them all out. I figured I'd come over here away from the paint sprayer noises and let you know that I did not film the entirety of me removing these bulbs because it was really tedious. And I didn't think you would want even a sped up version of me sitting in one spot for about an hour on end trying to dig through the fig roots and pull up these bulbs. I did pull up a lot of them. I did not get all of them, and I don't even know if I got most of them. You can see in this basket behind me, it is filled with snowdrop bulbs, but I could not get a lot of them because of how they had grown into the fig roots. And while that fig is being removed later, it's not being removed right now, and I just didn't want to embark on something that in-depth and involved today. As many of these snowdrop bulbs as I possibly could, and I still have a lot left over, so as you can see there are plenty to go around, and I'm not sure what to do with these leftover bulbs, but I will figure that out. I don't think I will throw them away. I think I'll probably plant them somewhere, even if it's just in a pot to keep them until I have somewhere else more permanent to put them. But I'm really glad that I was able to dig them up and use them, because I was worried that when we reworked the area we would either A, kill them, or B, they would just perpetually be sprouting up in the garden in random places, and I didn't really want to burden myself with constantly trying to pull those up for the rest of time. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up down below, subscribe, let me know in the comment section what you're doing in your garden, what your favorite bulbs are to plant during this time of year so that you are ready for spring. And until next time, I will see you in the next video. Walter's eating the strawberries that I transplanted and put in here. Nothing is safe. Hi. You're right where I need to dig. Move it along, little doggy. Okay, well, we'll just move your little bottom then. There you go.